In 1973, for my 24th birthday, my girlfriend, Judy Van Hook, who was a marvelous actress, brought me to St. Mark's Place to see an astrologer. Her gift for my birthday was my astrological chart. We found our way into this building, I don't know where it was, past some objects, maybe some bodies. In the air was patchouli, incense, and weed. I had the most amazing astrological reading from Peggy Immig, who I later discovered was also a musician. And what she told me was my life would be full of death and transformation and rebirth. I think she was right in many regards, but it was a marvelous experience. We walked out. I had no idea where I was, except that I was in the East Village, and it felt like home. It felt like a place I belonged. I knew and sensed this was the heart of counterculture America. I had no idea, however, at the time, that the East Village and St. Mark's Place had a history of its own. I had no idea until some 4 years later, when I discovered William Norman Guthrie. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Now, that's a few people back there. Can everyone see all right now? Okay. Guthrie was really an amazing personality, and he is, I think, the source of the counterculture movement that developed so richly 40, 50 years after he arrived here. Not only was Guthrie an amazing figure for the history of this place, but he was involved with Frank Lloyd Wright, who in the 1920s also was part of the evolution of the East Village. Now tonight I'm going to talk about Wright and Guthrie. I'm also going to talk about Wright and New York. What's amazing is that in the 1920s, New York City turns around the career of Frank Lloyd Wright, lifting him from the pits, from nadir, to set him up for the glorious decades of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and the fame that surrounds his life that we know today. Now, you might say, how in the world could that be true of Frank Lloyd Wright? Didn't he hate New York? Well, he said it was a place, a pigsty, a prison, a place only fit for bankers. But in fact, Wright had a very intimate and important relationship with the city. And like many others who came here for refuge, for challenge, he chafed at the problems that we all face every day, but he also thrived here. Its literary world, its openness, its sense of safety, provided him with the stimulus and the shelter and the connections that turned him around, as we'll see tonight. Now, I'm only hitting on some of the highlights that are covered in more detail in my book, so this won't be too long or too arduous. But to understand how this comes about, we need to go back and look at what Frank Lloyd Wright knew about New York and when. That takes us to the Plaza Hotel in 1909. He comes to New York at the age of 42. You wonder where he's been all that time, the Midwest. He comes with his lover, Mamah Borthwick Cheney. Both of them have abandoned their families. They hole up in the Plaza Hotel in secrecy because they're en route to Europe, where they start what Wright called a spiritual hijira, an attempt to fashion a life for themselves that would allow them to thrive when they came back to the States. Now, we just discovered that Mamah Borthwick Cheney, who was a very literate, cosmopolitan, sophisticated woman, introduced Wright to William Norman Guthrie around 1907 in Chicago. Guthrie became Wright's closest intimate while they spent time in Europe. Guthrie was the only person who had the guts to tell Wright that the life that he was charting, was never going to fly. They could not live as a couple married to other people in American society. Everyone would suffer, Wright's work would suffer, and so forth. Now, Guthrie, who'd been traveling around and ordained as an Episcopal minister, arrived in New York to St. Mark's on the Bowery, a church just a few blocks from here, in 1911. The church, as many of you may know, is the oldest place of continuous worship in New York. It was on the farm of Peter Stuyvesant, who's buried there under the stones. But by 1911, the old parishioners had either died off or moved uptown. The neighborhood was in flux. It was filling with, as you imagine, as you know, Ukrainians, Lithuanians, all sorts of people from the Balkans and Central Europe. Those folks had no rapport with the Episcopal liturgy that Guthrie had inherited in his church. Guthrie was an amazing figure. He was a playwright. He was a poet. He was a student of architecture. He believed in archetypes. And what he decided to do was to bring people back to the church by creating programs and speakers and events that drew on global culture, particularly what we think of today as the Third World. So under Guthrie, things start to change. Wright's time in the teens is very problematic. Name of Borthwick was murdered in 1914. It was a very sensational, horrific event. Journalists love this sort of story. It's easy to write best-selling books about them. Tough times. Wright spent most of the decade in Japan with another woman, Miriam Noel. They had a fractious relationship. When they came back in 1922, they married, didn't help a bit. By 1924, they had separated, and Wright met this woman in Chicago, Olga Lazarevich Hindenburg, this beautiful, esoteric member of a cult, the cult of Georgi Gurdjieff. She was a dancer, 30 years younger than Wright. They fell in love. Within a short space of time, she was pregnant. They had a child. Wright was married to somebody else. Miriam discovered that Olga had her daughter, a hospital in Chicago. She swooped down on them, harassed them. They had to flee. They came to all places, to Queens. Olga had a brother and sister-in-law in Hollis, which is an area of Queens now north of JFK Airport. Once again, they're in kind of secret mode. Wright's looking for safety and refuge. He starts to write about New York City. Every day he takes the train in and he wanders around. He doesn't see anyone. It's a difficult, depressing moment. His lover is experiencing what we would call these days postpartum depression, a tough moment for them. It's an unsettling moment. Wright has continued to try to restart his architectural practice. He is designing some things, nothing gets built. Miriam, his strange wife, is constantly harassing them. They go into seclusion once again, 10 months later, this time outside of Minneapolis, where unfortunately for Wright, they're discovered in their secret hideaway and arrested in October of 1926. Frank Lloyd Wright is hauled to jail. He spends 2 nights there. Not only is Wright hauled to jail, but so is Olga with her daughter from her original marriage and their young child. I'd say this is the bottom, this is the pits of Frank Lloyd Wright's life and career. Once again, they almost have, excuse me, no place to go except New York. This time, December of 1925, they come to the village. They come to West 12th Street, where Wright's sister, Maggie Nell, lives in a townhouse featured right here, the door on the right. Maggie Nell was a very talented illustrator, quite successful. She made a little bit of money. She bought this townhouse with her first husband. She very much loved her brother. Wright had another sister. They were all quite close. So these stories you hear about Frank Lloyd Wright being a kind of total narcissist who didn't care for anyone, his children, or anyone else. Not quite so. He had in many ways close rapport with his sisters and at least some members of his own family. It's here that Wright gets to know Brenda Tillage. Within a short space of time, he has cashed in some of his Japanese boudoir prints, which in the teens he'd been selling to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Olga Vanna reports that they found an apartment near the Lafayette Hotel on East 9th Street. Now, the Lafayette Hotel at this time was a watering hole for literary figures and artists, a kind of gathering place where artistic folks ate and drank, and Wright and Lover partook of this world and really quite enjoyed it. Olga Vanna told the story. And Wright was a very kind of straight character, even though he was a kind of serial adulterer. They got drunk one night, so drunk they couldn't remember where they lived. They giggled all the way home, and finally made it. So they absorbed the culture of New York. Wright is not only absorbing New York, writing about it, he's coming into contact with a whole new circle of friends and colleagues, many of whom are much younger than he is. And a number of these figures are on the cutting edge of modernism as it's beginning to evolve and develop in the mid-20s in the city. Not only is Wright encountering new people, but he's encountering the great efflorescence of Art Deco architecture. Now, I would argue that Art Deco is the first great American expression of modern architecture. We have progressivism, we have come from the School of Beaux-Arts, wonderful buildings, inspired by Neo-Renaissance models. Art Deco is something that you can't find to this extent in Europe, and it's a kind of national style. It's proliferating with buildings like the American Radiator on East 40th Street, or the Barclay BC, or the Chrysler Building, which starts construction soon, Empire State Building, or maybe the culmination in Rockefeller Center. The issue that Wright is contending with is what's going to be the future of modern architecture? Now, we don't really know at this time. It's up for grabs. What is happening while Deco is transforming the city is the beginning of an influx of the international style. Functionalism, the architecture that produces the big glass boxes. Right? So Wright positions himself as an opponent to both of them. So we have a kind of three-legged stool for the struggle to define what modern architecture is going to be. Deco, international style, or Wright's vision of a democratic, organic architecture. Now, fortunately for Wright, he's living just down the block from William Norman Guthrie. You're seeing him right here in the middle, flanked by two Indian chiefs. He brought swamis. He brought all sorts of people to the church, to St. Mark's, to conduct services. This is the Majolica portal, right in the entryway to the church. And there's Guthrie beaming. He also created a pageant of dancers, recruiting 4 women from Barnard. They were scantily clad, created a sensation. The Archbishop of New York, who Guthrie knew very well, basically sort of excommunicated him and St. Mark's for such scandalous behavior. Now, Guthrie believed that to bring people back to the church, and these events are incredibly popular. They might, let's be honest, they might not have been so popular with the Ukrainians, but they're drawing artsy people, choreographers, film people, painters from all over the city to overflowing crowds. Guthrie decides to push forward with this agenda of non-Western spiritualism. He needed a modern cathedral. He was a student of architecture. He did this sketch, and at the very center it says, no priest, no conductor, actors instead. This is a place of performance. And in this cathedral, which would be a universal cathedral for 14 different denominations, you would have a great spiraling ramp. colors that flash through, clouds of incense, fountains, and so forth. In other words, a psychedelic environment. He announced these plans at his Easter service in 1925, and he sends the drawing to his dear friend Frank Lloyd Wright. Wright comes up with the architectural version of this scheme. And here you're seeing the floor plan, which is a kind of geometric figure. It's very large. Underneath the main entry level, where each denomination had its own portal, was a soup kitchen for the needy. So it wasn't just something for any kind of specialized group. Now this was an amazing building. And you can't quite see it maybe, but that's the modern cathedral, sometimes misidentified as a steel cathedral. It wasn't steel, it was glass. Here's the Eiffel Tower. You can see it's 50% bigger. Here's the Pyramid of Cheops in Giza. So the Universal Cathedral, the modern cathedral, is twice as large. Pretty big. Well, Guthrie and Wright did not have a site. It would have been several blocks in dimension. They didn't have a budget. It was a visionary project. These two visionaries hatched this idea. And part of the importance of it is that for Wright, someone believed in his creativity and gave him unfettered opportunity to explore his ideas. This is after a hard time, filled with a great deal of strife, struggle, and rebuff. Now, very quickly, they move on to something else, a project that actually has real potential. Here you're seeing the Church of St. Mark's in the Bowery with 4 towers surrounding it. Now, right off the top of your head, you might say, thank God those things weren't built. They're so out of scale, just the kind of thing that we wrinkle our brow and fret about invading our neighborhoods. But we have to look a little more carefully to see what these projects were all about. This is a site plan. 11th Street here, 10th Street here, Stuyvesant Street right here. There's the church. Now, Guthrie asked only for one tower. Wright was enthusiastic and designed 4 of them. This was on land that the church owned. And the purpose of these towers was singularly one thing: to provide a rental income for all these new artistic and cultural programs that Guthrie had in mind. So the rents from these towers would support the cultural movements that the church was putting forward. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is, in designing this building, Frank Lloyd Wright saw it, very importantly, as an alternative to the Art Deco skyscraper and a rebuttal to the international styles. This vision of the skyscraper became extremely important for Wright for the whole rest of his career. And it's worth taking a little moment to see something about the design of it. Now, this is a plan at the ground level. These sort of dark areas are the walls ascending up. These open spaces are the things that all New Yorkers need the most: extra storage. Now, if you approach this building, you can see all the way through it. These were towers that were designed to be built in gardens. Wright designed every detail of these interiors and the exteriors. This is a preparatory sketch. It was pulled together in a drawing like this, where you see the finished interior view up on the upper left, the floor plans, which are pinwheels, and then a section through the building. This shows you the key innovation that Wright kept pressing. The very center of this building was a concrete core. And the idea that Wright put forward was the floors could be cantilevered off the central core and save material. This was sustainable architecture. The exterior was free to be glass with operable windows. The interior and the exterior were made of the same kinds of materials. Now, this drawing, I'm happy to say, you can see in Gallery 511 in the new installation of the Museum of Modern Art. This project power for St. Mark's in the Valley is featured there. Now, a strange thing happens. This has a kind of gestation in terms of design. Wright presents the project. Unfortunately, he presents it in 1929, 4 days after Black Tuesday, the beginning of the crash. Now, no one at the time can really grasp or wants to grasp the devastation that this economic event will have. Wright keeps pushing through this project. Guthrie is beginning to realize the money isn't there. It's not going to happen. Wright's relentless. He publishes it in Architectural Record, the leading professional journal of the period, in this perspective. And in the text down below, the Architectural Record says, by the way, this is Frank Lloyd Wright's reply to the international style. It describes the materials, the intention, and so forth. Just as the Depression is stunting architectural production for almost everyone, Wright's career begins to ascend. He's been in New York long enough, he's made enough contacts, he's publishing enough here that the buzz is out. He gets an invitation from Princeton University to give a series of lectures and to mount an exhibition of his work. He's thrilled. Frank Lloyd Wright was a college dropout. To get an invite from the Ivy League was a big deal. It allowed him to also refine his ideas in a series of essays that were published in 1930. Simultaneous with that event, and a lot of these things that I write about in my book are happening simultaneously, is Wright being welcomed by the Architectural League of New York. The Architectural League of New York is a professional club, it still exists. At the time, they had a wonderful townhouse for their offices and gallery, just below Grand Central Terminal. They put on an exhibition of Wright's work here in New York City, and they gave him a great gala dinner in Central Park. The established architects of New York welcomed Frank Lloyd Wright with open arms. Maybe belatedly, but they're opening their arms to him. He sends it old Giovanna a telegram back in Wisconsin, where she's located, saying, great success all around, coming home tomorrow on the train. Now, Wright has another friend who's an important New Yorker, someone that William Lloyd Guthrie knew as well, Alexander Wolcott. He had been the most successful theater critic in the New York Times in his 20s, made a great deal of money, and had transferred through a number of positions at various newspapers to be a leading writer for the New Yorker. Among the things that he wrote were these long profiles. Those of us who grew up on the magazine, with the magazine, remember reading these profiles, often very interesting in great depth. He publishes one on Frank Lloyd Wright in 1930. This profile sets the picture, sets the points in place by which we know Frank Lloyd Wright to this very day. He concludes this essay by saying, if anyone had to ask me who is a genius in America, I would say the only living genius in America is Frank Lloyd Wright. Not the only living architect, the only living American who's a genius is Wright. This puts Wright on the map. And just think about it. 4 years earlier, he's in the Minnetonka jail. Within 4 years, he's utterly transformed. And what I would argue, without New York, this never would have happened. Another byproduct of being here in New York is Wright is tied into the publishing industry. He gets a literary agent, actually Wolcott's agent, who connects him to a distinguished publisher. He publishes his own autobiography in 1932. This book had a huge critical success across the country, and it was particularly interesting for young people, 18-year-old, 19 years old, 20 years old, people who were either going to college or thinking about going to college. And what they appreciated was the candor and the vulnerability and the directness of this book. Wright reveals a lot about himself. It's written in a very appealing, elegant way, and it drew people to him. With that upswelling of interest, in 1932, Wright creates the Taliesin Fellowship, which was his school, in effect, and became the production unit for his work for the next 25 years. By 1938, Wright has designed Falling Water, very famous, and the Johnson Wax Administration Building in Wisconsin, two of the most important and familiar works of modern architecture. He's on the cover of Time magazine, and you can't quite make it up. At the very back of this is a rendering of Falling Water, which has just been finished built only a year before. Now, the war years are also challenging. Architecture is put on hold while resources are channeled into the war movement. But Wright has something cooking that's very exciting. In 1943, he's awarded the commission for the Guggenheim Museum. Now, it doesn't open until 1959, so that's a long gestation, right? Here he is in 1945, right in the center. There's Helen LeVay, artistic advisor to Solomon Guggenheim, who's on the right. And here's the model of the Guggenheim, which was unveiled at the Plaza Hotel, Wright's favorite stomping grounds when he was in New York. Now, Wright begins to spend so much time in New York by the early 1950s. He moves into two suites in the Plaza Hotel and remodels them in this fashion. He holds court here, basically. There are other projects in the region that he supervises. He loves being in New York. Olga Ivana also loved it too. There are celebrities. He designs a project for Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller. It doesn't get built. He is visited by his granddaughter, Anne Baxter, the actress. They attend all kinds of prestigious and extraordinary events. It's a good time held by all. Wright is approaching 90 years of age. Now, one of the things that happens in this period is Wright is very prescient, understands what these days we call branding, and he starts turning his design work into merchandise. And one of the vehicles that allows this to happen is House Beautiful magazine. House Beautiful is promoting the organic architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright as an antidote to the international style, which is starting to pop up its boxes in Manhattan and around the country. When I was a child, my parents subscribed to this magazine. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I remember looking at this. I didn't know what it was, but I was flipping through the pages, and I was transfixed by the images. And little did I know, my parents were studying the work of Frank Lloyd Wright through this Shelton magazine, and I ended up living in a Wright-in house in Memphis, Tennessee. Dreams start to come true for Frank Lloyd Wright. That Universal Cathedral is scaled down and becomes the Beth Shalom Synagogue in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, just on the northern outskirts of Philadelphia. The tower that Frank Lloyd Wright designs for St. Mark's in the Bowery, just down the road there, you see it here on the left, is built in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, as the headquarters of the H.C. Price Company. By the way, this model is also visible at the Museum of Modern Art, where I took this image. This was very, I can't overestimate the importance this model had for Wright. It was in every architectural exhibition that he ever put on. He relentlessly believed it was an alternative way to build a high-rise. And it's only at most, it could be between 12 and 14 stories tall, so not huge. In this struggle for the fate of modern architecture, Wright does not succeed. These are the models for corporate America, Lever House on the left with the United Nations, the international style. It doesn't completely regulate and control domestic architecture, but it controls imagery and the construction of commercial and civic architecture, we might say up to today. Now there's one marvelous exception to this issue, and that is Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim, which has just become a world monument, so it is now permanently preserved. I love this photograph with an Italian model, image taken by Tony Vaccaro. This cements Wright's legacy as a figure of global cultural importance. Unfortunately, William Guthrie faded from our perception. By the early 1930s, his efforts to create alternative forms are getting pushed back from his own vestry board. He retires around 1936. He passes away in 1944, became virtually unknown until relatively recently in this book. So that's my story in brief, hitting the highlights. I'm so glad you all are here. We can chat informally. I'll be signing books. Any questions before we start now? Yes?
Were the towers that you proposed based on Corbusier?
No. That's a great question. This is the moment that Le Corbusier has his own vision of towers, and Wright and Le Corbusier are competing with each other. Le Corbusier is the Swiss-French architect, a whole generation younger than Frank Lloyd Wright, but really the leading modernist in Europe, without any doubt. And these guys are smart. They know that they're each other's competition. In the Sunday magazine section of New York Times, one week, Wright publishes his tower, and in the next week, Le Corbusier publishes his tower. Questions? Well, again, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.